This week on Live Awake, a letter to the women of this world. Dear women of the world, rest a while and listen as I tell you of the great powers resting there in your hips, on your breast, in the fibers that twist and twine within your flesh, of the greatness you possess in which I think you need to be reminded. Dear women of the world, beyond the image of external beauty you so diligently work to tend, beyond the idea that your external beauty holds great value and importance, lives something far more wondrously wild and uniquely yours, a beauty of no standard, just your raw and unfettered self. Beyond the idea that your appearance is equated with your worth, thrives a tremendous depth. Let me remind you of your softness, your abilities to heal, to transform, to nurture the world around you. Let me remind you of the natural gifts that come packaged alongside you when you were born into this world as woman. Let me remind you that your gifts of feeling, empathy, and love are not weaknesses to sever yourself from. They are not wasted on you. They are not something to run from, to feel ashamed, or to stifle. So much of being woman means to be fierce feelers, to see the way you so naturally do, to feel and touch and nurture the life that is both conceived in your womb and swimming around you. Dear women of this world, if I could tell you one thing you must somehow learn to remember, it's that your sensitivities were meant to be used for greatness, to feed and nurture the world into proper order. The softness you possess was meant to be taught, shared, showered. Dear women of this world, let me remind you of the ocean of strength that lives within you. Let me remind you of the constellations that swirl in continuous orbit around your heart center. Let me remind you of the connection you have with the divine, the source from which woman was born. You house within you the most frightening power of all, the power to love without condition, to nurture without thought, to breathe life back into broken and scared places in others. You must always remember, these are your gifts. You must always remember the ocean of strength that lives within you. Dear women of the world, if there was one thing I could urge you to pursue, it would be to reconnect with your most untamed version of you, who looks not into the mirror to find her power, but travels into the uncharted waters that thrash around her and brings peace and tenderness on her back. I want to remind you of the vastness of your being before we got lost in the small box of what we've been taught is woman. Before we were told to stop crying so often, before we were taught to toughen our skins, before we were taught to be hard, before we were distracted into thinking the roundness of our eyes and the plumpness of our lips somehow held value and importance, before we forgot that we are the portals of life for great reason, that we have throughout history been the soft earth in which all life grows. At what point did we get so lost to the value and importance of these very things? Dear women of the world, these qualities and inclinations humming in your background require your attention and nurturing. They are what the world is in need. They are to be cultivated with great care. If you find yourself feeling lost, disconnected from source, alienated from yourself, you must work to journey back into your wildness. Sit with yourself. Place your feet bare against the earth. Breathe back into the little girl you once were, the little girl who led with her heart, the little girl who felt all the joy in the world and all the pain too. Feel back into the little girl who became afraid of all her abilities to see and feel so much, who decided it was safer to close than to open to the little girl who listened to the people around her criticizing her sensitivities, calling her too soft. Travel back to that little girl and offer your hand now from your grounded root, from your place of mother or woman or lover. Show her the way back into her most fulfilling form, into her place as the divine feminine.